Boom. Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Once again, you here with your guy Panama Fargo. It's another episode of the Raider Rundown, and today, man, we have a very, very special guest in the studio. Can't wait to reveal it to y'all. But let's go ahead and get this intro started. Let's get this real Raider talk going, man. And I cannot wait for today's show, man. Let's get it started.
As a young guy, I had a dream that someday I would build the finest organization in professional sports.
Like I said, man, we have a very special guest in the studio, man. We got Murf from Raiders Fan Radio, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. I know they already know what you got going on, but go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
My name's Murf. I host a podcast called Raiders Fan Radio. We started Raiders Fan Radio back in its current version in 2016. I've been podcasting kind of off and on since 2012. But anyways, I do my show with my best friend Swag Jeff and our other best friend Michelle, and so we go live each and every week at Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to check us out here on the YouTubes, youtube.com/Raiders Fan Radio, and we also have a podcast version, an audio podcast version that's on any audio podcast service just by searching Raiders Fan Radio. But the best thing about what we do is we have a nonprofit now associated with our show. Once we figured out we could make some money with Raiders Fan Radio, we decided we wanted to give it all away. So we started a nonprofit called the One Nation Foundation, and we give all the money away that's raised from our show, from advertising to direct donations, merchandise sales, anything that we can do to generate money. We give it to Raiders-related charities like the Bolitnikoff Foundation, like the good folks at Raider Dad. So many of our great, amazing Raider charities that are out there. And so, yeah, that's kind of like we used to do Raiders Fan Radio, and then the One Nation Foundation was a result of the show. Now, like, the show is there to support the foundation. Like, so it's one of the things we think that Raider Nation does best is family and taking care of community. And so that's what we feel is our calling to do, and that's what we're doing with the foundation.
That's real dope, man. Real dope, man. Anybody that wants to go check out your channel, I strongly encourage them to do so, man. I definitely check out your channel. Love what you got going on. Love the content. That's why I had to hit you up, man, to try to get you over here, get your perspective, man. So everything you said, definitely, man. It's very inspirational to see what you guys do on that side as well as an up and coming YouTuber.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much, man. It's this YouTube community is a guy that named Kenny Stapler used to have the Pillaging podcast. Told me one time, he said, "Hey Murph, a rising tide raises all ships," and so that's the way that I feel about this community of content creators, show producers, whatever you want to call us, man. We all got to lift each other up, and because by doing that, there's a lot of benefits to it. But to me, it's this: is that it highlights the absolute best of Raider fans, and Raider fans do this unlike any other team. There's no other team fan base that has this kind of, this creator community and the fan community and the things that we do. No one else does this. The freaking Packer fans aren't doing this. Giants fans aren't doing that. No one else does it like Raider Nation. And so, whatever we can do to support each other, man, that's what it's all about. And so, congratulations to you on getting your channel up and running. And anything we can do to support you, man, we will.
And I appreciate that, man. And like you said, Raider Nation is different than any other fan base, man. Even when it comes down to just doing simple stuff like doing YouTube, right? I mean, like, you look around the YouTube landscape at other NFL teams and, their creators, although they are good, it's not the type of passion that Raider fans have for this team. And, my friends from the outside, they ask me, like, how can you like the Raiders, and y'all ain't been that good? I'm like, if you're not in it, you don't understand, like, what exactly is. It don't matter what the record is, bro, we're there. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, it's just good to finally get into the circle, man, and really meet some more diehard fans, man.
Absolutely, yeah, man.
So now that we into the diehard thing, man, I really want to touch on a couple subjects, man, that's real touchy in Raider Nation, man, if you don't mind. I really want to touch on first the Josh Jacobs situation, man, and really get your opinion on that. You know what I mean? What do you feel like, is going on with the Josh Jacobs situation? How do you feel about it?
It's a tough one because I think especially in the social media space, oftentimes that, we look for, try to find a bad guy. We want to find, somebody that's right, someone that's wrong. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's things aren't that's simple. Sometimes it's just situational, and I really feel that, like, I don't begrudge Josh Jacobs one sec for, like, trying to get his money, for trying to secure a future for him and his family. We know what the career shelf life looks of running backs. No one I don't think should begrudge him for, like, I'm a capitalist at heart, man. Make all you can make.
Right.
That said, I also don't feel sorry for millionaires. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. But then also, too, like, it's not the team's fault either. Like, they're trying to put the most competitive team together on the field they possibly can, and if you overinvest into any position, and in this case we're talking about the running back, if you overinvest, it'll hamper your ability to build at other positions. So I don't think it's a glaring disaster like a lot of people want to make it on Twitter, that, like, oh, McDaniels and Rose Ziegler and blah blah blah.
Right.
And I also don't think that Josh Jacobs is being selfish. I don't think he's being a baby and holding out and all that. I think he should hold out. And frankly, vets don't want to go through training camp anyways. Josh Jacobs is not going to get better in training camp. Like, Josh Jacobs is Josh Jacobs week one, no matter what. So if that reduces the wear and tear on his body, then he's in a better mindset. I saw a little clip today of Devontae on the Dan Patrick show, and he had a conversation with Josh and told him flat out, like, look, if your mind's not right, if your head's not in it, don't
come. Yes,
like, you know what I mean?
You go. I love that.
And so if Josh is going to be in camp and he's going to be distracted by this contract bullshit, can I swear on here?
Oh, yeah, of course. Hell yeah.
All right. So if he's going to be distracted by contract bullshit, then we don't want him there anyways. We want him there when he's going to be all in. And if it takes all the getting to game or week one when he can start pulling game checks, then I don't begrudge him. I think the sad thing is this. We haven't had a ton of superstars come rolling through, the silver and black in recent history. Josh Jacobs is a captain of this football team. He was voted a captain by his peers and his teammates. I would hate to see it divide a locker room or at least cause some sort of a fracture by not having him come back. And I hate to see superstars depart. I hated it when Khalil Mack got traded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you got, amazing talent in the building, you don't want to see these guys go. But unfortunately, man, I think we're in a situation that no matter what, we got Josh Jacobs for one more year, and then that's it. And then he's going to, because they're not going to franchise tag him again, and likely he's going to test the open market, and he'll get, he'll get paid from somebody. And so, it sucks, man. But as a fan, again, number one, I'm not going to let it disrupt, and look at try to find somebody bad, try to find a villain,
exactly,
not a villain. But and then I'm just going to enjoy Josh Jacobs this year and get to enjoy watching. I don't buy a lot of young players' jerseys. I'm an old guy, if you haven't noticed, from the gray hair. But I don't buy a lot of young players' jerseys. I buy jerseys of players that are older than me, or at least in my same age range, like Charles Woodson. Josh Jacobs is the only jersey of a young man that I own, because I wanted to have a jersey that commemorated the inaugural season in Vegas, and so I got the Josh Jacobs jersey with the inaugural patch on it, because he's my favorite player at the time. Others now are starting to compete with that, but so I hate it that he's going to leave, and I've given you a really super long-winded answer. Sorry, I hate that he's going to leave, but I think we got him for one more, and then that's it.
First of all, my viewers see my ass all the time, so it's good to get another perspective from somebody else. One. Two, I think you said something really, really interesting, and touching on the superstar thing. I think it's true from the aspect of we as fans are not used to having many superstar players on this team, one. And two, we're not used to having a front office that's actually capable of sitting there money-wise and knowing what to do in the front office as far as contracts. I've been saying this on my show for a minute. If Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels don't work out, God forbid, because me personally, I don't want to keep going through the coaching carousel. But if they don't work out, the one thing you can say about this regime is that besides a few outliers, they've been pretty smart with their money. They haven't handicapped the Raiders like previous regimes have in the past with just dumb contracts here and there, Besides a couple, you can look at Chandler and stuff like that, but then more along the lines, you look at most of the signings they've had, it's been pretty smart and pretty team beneficial. So when you look at the running back position, like around the most of the league, what's beneficial for the team? And it's true from both aspects that Josh needs to get paid because he had his year. But at the end of the day, the Raiders roster still has many holes that needs to be fixed, and it can't really get fixed if we give a running back top dollar. And I just think that some fans are warring with that in their minds, trying to get through with that. And it's like, we drafted Zamir for a reason. Zamir was a plan from the jump. Zamir was the plan. I don't think they expected Josh to have the type of year that he did. Like thankfully he did. But at the end of the day, when teams draft a running back, that's pretty much the signal right there. Like this running back you pretty much have right now has a shelf life, and we plan to replace this running back. So I just think that some fans are getting confused, but I definitely agree with everything you said right now regarding this Josh Jacobs thing.
Man, you make a great point about the draft, too. There's a reason we have Britton Brown, Sincere McCormick, and Zamir White. Like,
there are reasons.
You're right. I don't think they expected him. Well, I mean, clearly they didn't expect him to have the year that he did. Otherwise, they'd have given him the fifth-year option. And, it's unfortunate for Josh, too, that this is yes, he had this massive year, 340 carries, this amazing breakout year, but he's not done it back-to-back. And that's where, people are saying, McCaffrey got his money, or Derrick Henry got his money, or whoever. Yeah, but those guys, Chubb, they did it 3-4 seasons in a row where they had these monster seasons. Josh had a great rookie year, kind of fell off in the middle too, and then had a great year last year. So he's not had that consistency either. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you, and again, I just keep following on this idea that there's just not a bad guy in this. It's just unfortunate. The league's not going to change. The CBA's not going to change. The running back structure's not going to change. Here's something interesting though that I do think is going to change, and I want to know what your thoughts are on this. I brought this up on our last show, and I'm curious to hear what you think. If I'm a young player, so the era that I grew up playing ball, and the era of my fandom coming up and everything, the bell cow running back, Earl Campbell and you know what I mean, Walter Payton and guys like that. Those were the guys, Marcus Allen, let's keep it on the Raiders. Marcus Allen, the Bo Jackson, those were the guys that dominated the league. That's not what it's like anymore. Okay, clearly we don't have that anymore. If I'm a young man and I'm clearly got exceptional talent to the ability to where I'm going to play at a D1 school, maybe at an SEC program, high profile, whatever. Not only am I going to continue to hone my skills as a running back, but I'm running routes after practice. I'm hitting the jugs machine as much as I can. I'm going to learn how to expand my game to be more than just carrying the football and hitting an A-gap. I want to be more Deebo Samuels than I want to be Josh Jacobs. And I'm curious that if the league doesn't change, if the players change, so that now when it comes to contract time, I might be the league's leading rusher, but I also might be third in receiving on the team too. Right. And you know what I mean? More Marshall Faulk even. Like if you think of some like players like that. What do you think? You think that's something that maybe younger generation will start to adapt to? Right.
Now, it's funny you say, those are your bell cow backs. It's funny for me. I remember my first real Raider running back, like really bell cow, was really Darren McFadden. Like that's the dude I really was like, oh my God, like this guy is real. And you're right, the league has definitely changed from that. And I give you one better. I definitely agree with what you're saying, because if I was pretty young and I was playing college, but if I was, right now going into college, fresh out of high school, definitely, if I'm playing the running back position, I have to be more than a running back. Now, and I'll tell you like this. Now, you see the Falcons just drafted Bijan Robinson this year, and we hear all this talk about how the Falcons are going to be using Bijan Robinson. They look at him more as a weapon, not as a running back. So when his time comes up to get paid, and you're using me like a receiver as a running back, now where's the leverage going to go? And I think that's where, like you're saying, the players are going to now dictate, okay, so since you're saying that we're X, Y, and Z because we're running backs, now if I'm leading the league here in rushing and I'm damn near 10th in receiving as well, what type of contract can you now spew to me? There's no way you can give me $10 million because I'm more than 50% of your offense now. You know what I mean? So now it's a leverage thing going on. So I definitely agree that I think the players are going to take it upon themselves now to start doing more. And then at the end of the day, like that's just going to then bump the contract talks from there.
Absolutely. You think about the way like the tight end position has evolved over the years, like going back in the day when we had like Dave Casper and like we had players like that. Those were like the first players to really start to emerge into like the pass catchers and become like dynamic players themselves. I'll never forget Jimmy Graham, not that all that long ago, maybe 10 plus years ago now. Remember when he was in his contract negotiations, he wanted to get paid like a wide receiver. And his argument was, I might play tight end, but I have wide receiver type production. That's what I want you to pay me like. And I really think that this stuff is really going to start to evolve if the league doesn't adapt. And now, because we're still 10 years away from the next CBA.
Yeah,
so they're
we
not
are.
going to modify the CBA before then. And even then, the CBA is designed to protect all NFL players, not just a segment of NFL players. So aside from like adjusting the rookie wage scale for running backs or the length of a rookie contract, I know what you can do. So I think the players will take it upon themselves to adapt their game and to make those changes. I don't know. It'll be curious to follow this thing and watch this unfold because you feel like it's kind of been brewing for a few years now, but now I feel like it's really coming to a head because now we're seeing all these running backs now on social media and whatnot. They're all kind of like teaming up. It's almost like they're forming a little mini union at the position, which is really interesting.
Which they should, but at the same time, I feel like the running back position doesn't do itself any favors as well. Because when you have situations like Le'Veon Bell or situations like Todd Gurley or DeMarco Murray, where these dudes hold out to get more money and then either go to a new team or after they get paid have not, aren't performing at the level that they were or get replaced by a younger, healthier guy. And this position has a problem with, yes, they deserve their money, but at the end of the day, I can easily find somebody in the 5th round, i.e. the Chiefs. What they find Pacheco in? Whatever they found Pacheco. 7th round, I can find an Alvin Kamara somewhere in the 4th, 5th round. Then at that point, so you know what I mean? Why pay somebody $12, $13, $15 million when I can just draft this guy here? And that's the problem with the running back position there. But at the same time, like you're saying, if the position evolves, not everybody's skilled enough to be a receiver / running back. So now you're gonna start getting different type of salaries for different type of talent. You know what I mean? I think that's where it's going to start going.
Absolutely. I mean, we see it in a lot of positions, and I know we're probably straying off topic now, but but we see it in a lot of positions. Quarterback has evolved a ton. I mean, tight end has evolved a ton. So I think running backs got to evolve. I mean, wide receivers have evolved to the way to where, they're played different now. So it's a lot more, you don't get I don't think you miss the toughness of like a Timmy Brown. Not that there aren't tough guys out there. I'm not insinuating that, but I'm saying the physicality of the position is changed a little bit over the years. But I mean, offenses have evolved because the league rules have evolved, and defenses have evolved because of it. We see more hybrid players, more safety linebacker type.
Exactly.
Divine Diablo is a great example. So everything evolves, and so the running back position, I believe, is going to evolve too. I mean, and the days of, I think like Derrick Henry is kind of like the last bastion to me
Him
of
and
a
Nick
guy
Chubb.
that's going to run just a big old dude that's just going to run the ball every play. I mean, prior to those guys, it was what, Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, and that's the last. And this is what I was saying to my followers, and then we'll get back on topic. I know people will probably watch this and be like, oh my God, I'm talking about this for a long time. But anyway, right? Look, I was saying this, and this is the last point I'll say on this. Although I do think Josh is great, right? And I do think he deserves his money. Are we talking about $15 million, $12 million? Great. Is he worth that much? He may think he's worth that much. But to be honest, the last running back, instead of Derrick Henry, last running back I've really, really, really seen carry a team and be that good where he needs that type of money is Adrian Peterson. And that's the last type of running back I've seen where that's oh, this motherfucker's Hall of Fame. This guy's different. So, and that's the last one I've seen like that. But, I just think that it all depends on, he thinks he wants to be paid a certain way. The Raiders are certain ways. But at the end of the day, he's going to be making over $10 million. He gets franchise tag regardless. So, he's going to be living good regardless. But to get on topic again,
I'd like to make $10 million once.
Hey, all I need is one good time with the $10 million. I'm set. That's it. That's all I need. But to really, I want to get your opinion on this because, there's been a lot of this. And I think that, as far as the landscape of Raiders social media and Raiders, YouTube goes, I feel like this kind of needs to change. There's kind of like a real divide between the do we like McDaniels and do we just want him absolutely fired, right? And I know you probably talked about this at length on your show, a number of times, but at the end of the day, it's just something that anytime there's a move that's made or not made, right? Everybody's ready to crucify this whole regime, so where do you stand on, this regime and how they're operating the team?
I think the jury's still out on it. I'm not a reactionary type fan. Mm-hmm. I've spun the calendar enough times to see this team do a lot of goofy shit over a lot of years, man. And so, God bless Al Davis, and he's an absolute deity when he comes to us in Raider Nation. But he kind of lost his fastball there at the end, and the dysfunction around the organization was at its highest. And this team has always had dysfunction, frankly. The difference is now is that I'm again, using my age as an example, I remember when we used to win in spite of the dysfunction. It didn't matter that we were the most penalized team in the league. It didn't matter that we didn't know where we were going to play in terms of city or stadium. It didn't matter that our owner was fighting with the league and getting sued and suing and all those things. None of that shit mattered. We still won anyways. And so the difference nowadays is that we get dysfunction and then we don't have results. We don't have the win. So anyways, like when you compare, I say this to the folks that really get torqued up about McDaniels and bless Ziegler, it's mostly McDaniels, but I remember Art Shell 2.0 and Mike White in the bed and breakfast, Austin. I remember Lane Kiffin. I remember Dennis Allen. I remember, look, we've had some freaking,
John Gruden's first year.
Norvell Turner.
Yeah.
We've had some funky ass coaches come through the organization. Josh McDaniels is the lesser of many evils in terms of coaches that we have had. I don't think you can do a true evaluation of a guy after year one. Now, that said, I'm not a huge fan of coaches that come in and implement their scheme and then they need a certain amount of time and runway to populate the team with said players that can excel in that scheme. I think that it's exceptional coaches can come into a new situation and adapt with what they have, in the building already.
Right.
So I think there could be a little bit more of that, but I'm not running the team and they're not going to listen to me. So I'm just going to go with what they're doing. And as of right now, being that that's the path that they're on, it's going to take them a couple of years. And I know Raider Nation doesn't want to be patient. I don't want to be patient either.
Yeah.
We've sucked ass for the better part of 20 years, other than an anomaly in 2016. We've been, and then we all had our hearts broken when Derek had his leg broken. I get it. I get that we don't want to be patient, but listen, at the same time, it's a new regime. They came in last year. They trade for Devontae. They make some moves with Chandler. They thought that we were this close, and then they realized we weren't. And so then they had to back up and reassess and redo their plan going forward. So I think we've, as much as we don't want to, it's prudent for us to give them time. The way that I resolve it in my fan brain is that I'm going to be a Raider fan no matter what. This ink doesn't come off, right? Yeah. We don't stop being Raider fans. So I'm going to trust and I'm going to have hope until there's no reason to have it. Yeah. If we start off the season 0-4, I'll be screaming out this window right here how much we suck. Yeah. But until then, I'm not going to expect that the team is going to suck. I'm not going to say that Josh McDaniels is terrible. There are some things that have come out post Derek about Josh McDaniels and his play calling that, and I'm not going to name drop it. I'm not trying to this is not me trying to do anything other than just to share information. We have some folks that we know that are connected to the players on the team. And they shared some information with us about some of the play calls that were sent into the huddle last year and that were changed on the fly into things that were not intended to be changed into. Like basically, like if you think about guys like Amir Abdullah, when you see him on like a 3rd and 2 and he gets tackled 4 yards shy of the yard of the yard marker on a called run on a draw play, and he gets up frustrated. Well, that's because the play got changed in the huddle. So there's some things about Josh McDaniels and his play calling that's not in widespread conversation, and so I think that he gets a little bit of a pass from me as a fan. Again, until like, look, if we start off 0-4, 0-5, and this season is all for naught, then again, I'll be right there, leading it. Especially, and I think he's on the hot seat. Mark Davis is still his old man's kid. Like, and people forget that, and they make fun of him about his hair and where he eats and what he drives and all that kind of shit. But at the end of the day, he don't like to be embarrassed. We saw him shit can freaking Riverboat Jack.
Oh, Jack Del Rio.
Jack Del Rio. We saw
Del Rio.
Jack Del Rio. The day of the freaking Chargers game, because we were embarrassed in a soccer stadium in Los Angeles with Michael Crabtree's sullen ass and freaking Jack Del Rio pouting on the sideline. And Mark was like, that's it, you're out. So if we come out and we're an embarrassment this season, don't think that Mark Davis won't pull a trigger. I don't think that it'd be Ziegler, but I don't think McDaniels is going to have, the length that he would, normally have if the Raiders come out and get embarrassed. I mean, if we get dog walked in a few games early on, like it wouldn't shock me. So anyway, but I don't expect that to happen.
Right.
I expect them to come out prepared. I'm going to expect a healthy Jimmy G because they're confident in it and their jobs are on the line, their legacies. Here's the last thing I'll say on it. We as fans have our perspective from the outside. And we're all passionate Raider fans and love this damn team. Like, aside from the real world things in my life, like my faith, my friends, and my family, this is the most important thing to me is my Raider fandom. I love the fucking Raiders more than anything else that's not those other things. This is not my job, though. This is their job. Their literal legacy and, livelihood is on the line. So if Josh McDaniels is not going to put a player out there on the field like Jimmy Garoppolo, or invest in a player like Jimmy Garoppolo, if he doesn't have the utmost faith that he's going to do well. Because if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't do well, or any of the other players they've invested in don't do well, it might cost his livelihood. At a minimum, it's going to cost him his legacy. We're already hearing people talk about like, oh, just like the Denver days. It's just like Denver. Nothing's changed. So he's already defining his legacy as a head coach in a negative tone. Do you think he wants to perpetuate that? Look, no one wants to win more than not one of us fans wants this team to win more than Josh freaking McDaniels. I promise you. So all that said, I give him a little bit of a pass. I understand the frustration, though. Again, I understand both sides. I get it. Some Raider fans are like, I'm sick of it. I don't want vacation anymore. I want to win now. But I also understand the idea that, like, that's a cliched-ass term, but Rome wasn't built in a day, man. We got to give him time. We got to give him time to build this thing up, and let's see where it goes. Then if it's crap, it's crap. But let's not decide it's crap before it ever even happens.
Thank you. And I completely agree with that. And this is what, I've been stressing to the people on my channel as well. It's like, I think that, yes, although the first year wasn't perfect, right? But at the end of the day, anybody deluding themselves thinking that even though the Raiders didn't make the playoffs the year prior, that whole team and roster was not built correctly. Like, we can say whatever you want to say. The Raiders made the playoffs. They made the playoffs on sheer heart when Derek Carr and Rich Bisaccia and them was all there. We made the playoffs on sheer heart or sheer fuck you will. You know what I mean? And that's where we got there. And that's how we got there. But at the end of the day, still looking at that team is not complete. That team was not complete. And that team was not a couple players away from then now competing with the likes of Cincinnati, Kansas City, compete like consistently. And I think that with Josh McDaniels, yes, there are certain things he can do better. Like I've said, his clock management needs to get better in certain situations, you know what I mean? And I don't know if that was because he didn't fully trust Derek last year in certain situations. When we're looking at, before the half and we're saying, okay, let's get some points here, but you just take a knee. So you're like, okay, obviously we have some sort of disconnect here now that I feel like that can get eliminated with a quarterback he trusts in Jimmy Garoppolo. we're saying he's all going to be healthy. I'm on the lines of saying he's going to be healthy week 1 because there's no other fucking choice. If he's not healthy week 1, we are in for a long fucking season. If this man is not healthy week 1, maybe O'Connell is something that we have no idea he can be, right? But at the end of the day, Jimmy is the starter for right now, and we need Jimmy to go ahead and play, immediately. Week 1, he needs to be out there. And if he's not, then that's a McDaniels and Ziegler thing that they're going to have to eat. They're going to have to eat crow on that decision. Because I think a majority, I don't know about you, and I love to see your perspective, but me personally, I wasn't on the Jimmy Garoppolo train. I didn't really want Jimmy Garoppolo. I was along the lines of saying, let's just get a high-profile rookie. And I'm not going to lie, I was on the Aaron Rodgers thing a little bit as well. But that's because I'm a victim of I want to win now, like most Raider fans say, So, but at the end of the day, Jimmy wasn't the first person on my mind. Him coming in here as a sole Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, saying we need somebody who knows the system, who we're comfortable with, and at the same time can teach a young guy like O'Connell the system as well. So, I would love to get your perspective on the Jimmy thing as well, but I do think fans need to chill out, at least give them until after this year to see if they're complete trash. And if they are, then we move on and find somebody else.
That's it, man. That's all you can do. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And, I think they get year 3 aside from shout out Mo Moten and Scott Gilbranson at Silver and Black today. Those guys have constantly said, aside from a locker room mutiny, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are coming back for year 3. Unless, again, like I mentioned, either locker room mutiny or total embarrassment on the field. 0-5 start, blown out by 30 points a game, something like that. That'll get them gone too. But in terms of Jimmy G, so like I said, they kind of hitched their wagon to him for this season, but I think that's all it is for this season. There's a reason that, like you mentioned earlier, and I think you made a great point about how prudent the Raiders have been in terms of front office and in terms of contracts, in terms of the responsibility that they've had in handling contracts. And in one of those is Jimmy G. The idea that we have an out on September 25th, which is what, Tuesday? If you don't show up to camp healthy, we can rescind the contract and we're not out a dime. So
exactly.
They're doing they're handling it from a very smart perspective. But he's if you think he's anything other than a bridge quarterback, I would encourage you to think different. This guy is not going to be the long-term solution for the Raiders. He's just not. He's not going to be even maybe a 2 or 3 year starter. He's probably going to be like a 1-year guy. Is Aiden O'Connell going to be that guy to step up and take the mantle? I don't know. Yeah. He's got the mustache for it, so we're all going to root for it. But I don't know. Could they make a play for, if I hear one more person talk about Caleb Williams out of USC,
Jesus Christ. You have to be absolutely fucking terrible. Yeah, you have to be terrible.
I don't want us to be in a position to take Caleb Williams. I want us to be in a position to where it's not even close. So, but will they draft another quarterback? I don't know. I'm with you too, and I wanted to echo this point that you made earlier. I think the idea that going into this season, and I was kind of on the A-Rod thing too, just because I'm a fan of football and I'm a fan of the quarterback position, and he does it. Until Patrick came along, better than anybody, right? As a pure passer, no one's better than Aaron Rodgers. So I was kind of about that idea. I'm like, okay, we could bring in Aaron. But then when that wasn't going to happen, I'm like, well, then let's just start swinging. Because here's the thing: you got to have a franchise quarterback. Yeah. And the best way to win in the NFL nowadays, based on the way the contracts are structured and everything else surrounding the quarterback position, is you got to draft one, and you got to hit. Yeah. You got to draft Josh Allen. You got to draft Joe Burrow. You got to draft Lamar Jackson. You got to draft Patrick Mahomes. You got to draft these guys and then hit on it. Now, you can miss. Don't get me wrong. You can get Zach Wilson or whoever, right? You can miss on QBs too, but you got to swing again because we have to beat the Chiefs, man. And this is what I fall back to a lot now. And especially, I don't know if you saw this Netflix series.
Oh, yeah, trust me. It boiled me up. It boiled me up.
It's insane how good Patrick Mahomes is. And Raider fans get mad at me for saying this kind of stuff, but if you can't recognize that he's literally on the verge of becoming the greatest football player that's ever played the game, because of all the physics of the way his body is constructed, the way the way he processes the game, his baseball skills he brings in. It's awful as a Raider fan. Like it's this guy is so unique and so blessed and so talented, and that's what we have to compete with. It ain't even about beating Joe Burrow or Josh Allen, and as much as we might have to do that in a playoff scenario, we got to beat Patrick Mahomes. Well, how do you beat Patrick Mahomes? Right? He's 20. What is he? 27 years old. He's been around forever.
There's at least 8 more years he has. At least. And this is what I'm trying to. I tell my friends this all the time because some friends I have, they don't really watch football, and they're like, "Is Patrick Mahomes really that good?" I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. This is probably how the Detroit Pistons fans felt when Michael Jordan was whooping their ass. This is literally like how that. This is my equivalent because it's like there's nothing you can do with him. And yes, and I want to bring up that point, and I feel like everybody, if you haven't watched the QB on Netflix, go watch that. But I gained a new level of respect for him just to see how much he talks shit. I didn't know he talked shit like that. I didn't at all. I thought he was soft. And seeing him, the way he acts on the field, I'm like, I kind of agree. If he was my quarterback, I'd be fucking with it. If he was mine. So at the end of the day, it's like seeing that. The only way to beat that is if your roster as a whole is together defensively, offensively, and say you have just a good quarterback. Say if O'Connell becomes Kirk Cousins, right? You can win with that if your roster is right. Or you have to have a quarterback to go blow for blow with him. That's the only way that you can really beat a guy like that. And right now, the Raiders have neither. We have neither right now. And we have to be honest about that. The closest in our division that could probably fuck with Patrick has to be the Chargers, only on quarterback alone. Quarterback alone. When you talk about just pure quarterbacking play, the Raiders probably have the 4th best quarterback room or 4th best starting quarterback in the division right now, if you want to be honest. Now, Russell Wilson, we'll see, but you got to assume that Sean Payton is going to have him playing better than what he was playing last year. So at the end of the day, it's like, what are we going to be getting with Jimmy G or rookie Aiden O'Connell? So at the end of the day, I feel like that's another reason we have to be patient because as much as everybody loved Derek Carr, we have to be honest about that as well. I mean, he wasn't beating Patrick Mahomes consistently. I'm sorry. Whatever everybody wants to say about that, he's not the type of quarterback that I felt when I went to them Kansas City games, I felt uneasy. You know what I mean? Like, now when the Chiefs had Alex Smith, I kind of felt a little bit more confident. I'm like, we can fuck around and beat these motherfuckers. They not, but now that the league is quarterback driven, it's like now I can't go into a game feeling super confident if I'm going against Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. If you don't have that superstar guy under center.
I agree 100%, man. I could not agree with that more. And it's, we're undermatched. We are undermatched. And in that, and I'm with you. And in that show, I think not only did it reveal that there's some dog in Patrick Mahomes, but I think also too, it really revealed that there's a lot of dog in Max Crosby. And that to me, I thought was badass. And that if anything was positive for Raider fan to take away from there is that we may not have a quarterback to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, but we got a defender to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. And freaking and that rivalry, like that's gonna reminds me of, again, if you're an NFL fan, you think back to Michael Strahan and Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that rivalry that had? It's like I think that we're gonna see something similar to that with Max Crosby and Patrick Mahomes, and I can't wait to see Max Crosby put that freaking dude on his ass a whole bunch this season, man. We're going to need it, and Max Crosby, I think, is on the verge of being Defensive Player of the Year with this season, with the help that he's now going to have on that defensive line. But anyways, but I'm with you. In terms of quarterback goes, we got a long way to go. To your point, I think, and I'll just close it with this: to beat Patrick Mahomes on the biggest of stage. What did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to do? They had to have literally the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game, and one of the most badass defenses that's in the modern era. Got after Patrick Mahomes all game long and kicked his ass. That's what beat them. Okay, well, we have neither of those right now.
Right.
We don't have a quarterback to go toe-to-toe, and we don't have a defense to handle him. So we have to invest and take the biggest of swings in all of these facets until we do. Because until we can beat the Chiefs, Raider Nation, it's I hate to be a defeatist, and I'm not a negative guy. But literally, if we don't get into a position to where we can stand with them game in, game out. I'm not talking about last year where, we almost beat them. Yeah, okay. Well, we let them come back and score 17.
Exactly.
Game. And then we got our ass kicked, and they were doing Ring Around the Rosie and embarrassing us on national television.
Shameful.
You know what I mean? Like, we have to go toe-to-toe with them game in, game out. When we get into a position where we're competitive in every single game against the Chiefs, then I'll feel like, okay, now we're starting to get a roster together. But until we do that, they're going to run away with it, man. As long as Andy Reid is, eating cheeseburgers and calling plays for that team, and as long as Patrick Mahomes has a broom up his ass and sounds like Kermit the Frog playing quarterback, like that this is what we are in for. So, we got to take big swings. And so Jimmy G is not that big swing. I think that there's more to be had. To answer your question, come full circle, there's a lot more to be had for this team when it comes to quarterback. I don't think he's the answer, but I think he's an answer for this season. To develop, to move, to take the next step, to be a guy that, and I try to make all my comments without disparaging the guy that used to play quarterback for us because freaking people lose their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that they brought Jimmy G in to be a guy that has a buy-in factor to him, that will run the offense they call, will be efficient in running the offense that they call, won't do anything more, won't do anything less. He will do exactly what they're asking him to do. He will be the ultimate system guy and bring enough efficiency to the offense to where he will be effective. And for those of you out there that are saying, well, Jimmy G can't take over a game, Jimmy G can't march a team downfield, ask Brandon Ayuk, ask Deebo Samuel, ask George Kittle what they think about Jimmy G. I'll bet you they have a favorable response about him and his ability to get the ball into their hands at the crucial time so they can score touchdowns and win football games. That's the end.
And that's all you can ask, Not every quarterback is a superstar, but if you have superstar players surrounding him, like Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and we're hoping Michael Mayer with the ability that he may have, those type of guys, sometimes you don't need that superstar quarterback. You need a guy that can distribute, be point guard out there, and that's basically what we need. That's basically what we need. And I want to end this on this topic right here, and then we can get up out of here. I don't want to take too much of your time, but
it's been fun, man. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Definitely, I would love to do this again, especially when the season starts. But let's talk about. I want to touch on Max because you kind of did touch on Max, going into it. And I want to touch on Max in the defense, okay? Now, we know that Max Crosby, and I've been saying this, to a lot of my friends, and I'm going to start saying this now more in the public space, but I do believe that Max Crosby right now is the one young defensive player that I can build a team around. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of defenders, in the league right now that are good, but if you're talking about young players who have that hungry mindset, who have the mindset you want for your team, you know what I mean? I think Max embodies that for sure. Now, is that going to spread throughout the defense? We don't know. But I just want to ask you, do you think that Max and the defense as a whole takes another step this season with Patrick Graham and another year in the scheme?
Yeah, I think so. And I was pretty reluctant on Patrick Graham for a while. I mean, he came in saying that he was going to do all the, it was all about adjustment. It was all about, when they asked him what kind of scheme is he going to run, 3-4, 4-3, 5-2, he said, yes, we're going to run all that stuff. And so
yeah, he did.
we went from a guy in Gus Bradley who only ran cover 3 to a guy in Patrick Graham that's all, he runs everything.
Right.
And I was even saying that, let's not hire any more defensive coordinators with the nicknames with the initials PG.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that said, I think that I think our defense is going to be good this year. And I may eat a shit sandwich after saying this stuff, at the end of the season. But considering where we're at, which was pretty low, I think there's not anything but room to go up. But there's a lot of fans that have been critical about the moves that the Raiders have made. And oftentimes I hear the Raiders didn't do enough. We didn't do enough at linebacker. We didn't do
Right.
enough in the secondary. We didn't do enough on the defensive line. All three levels of the defense, we didn't do enough. But maybe we did. We've drafted a couple of defensive tackles a year ago, if you remember.
Yeah.
I know you do, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about the proverbial you. We have Jerry Tillery in the building. We draft Tyree Wilson. We already had Chandler Jones. Like, we've developed the hell out of that defensive line. It sucked losing Solomon Thomas and Quentin Jefferson. I was big fans of those two guys. But we've done things to replace them. At linebacker, they've developed Divine Diablo into a bona fide starting middle linebacker in the league. This guy's going to wear the green dot on his helmet and probably patrol the middle of the field for us. You can take the amount of athleticism that he has, and add in the size and strength now that he possesses.
Yeah.
That dude, I think, is going to take the biggest of leaps in terms of development and standout. He's my Raider breakout player of the year on both sides of the ball. I think Divine Diablo is going to freaking be amazing for us this year.
Okay.
They bring in Bob Spillane. Yeah, I know he's got a lot of questionable coverage skills, but the guy can play the run. He can shoot into the backfield and sack the quarterback. They draft Amari Burney. Who, you want a guy that can cover? There's your guy that can cover.
Right.
You want to know who's going to be on Travis Kelce? It's going to be that guy. You and I both know that Marcus Peters is on his way into the building.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have Marcus Peters on one side and Jacorian Bennett on the other. Jacorian Bennett being a freaking long, fast, tall player, man. This guy's going to be great, and he's going to have a veteran to learn from like Marcus Peters. Then we go into the back end. Trayvon Merrick has a sophomore slump last year. I think that he can come out of that. They draft Christopher Smith, who's an absolute baller.
I love him.
I don't care what Combine tells you.
I love him.
Go watch freaking Georgia this year, man. Dude was around the football all the time and creates turnovers. What's one of the big things we've needed on defense? We've needed turnovers. That's what he's there to do. You bring in a guy with Marcus Epps, who's got Super Bowl, Super Bowl histories, Super Bowl freaking bona fides. You know, like, I look at these things and I'm like, all right, like, maybe they did do a lot.
Yeah.
Now, they may not have signed and traded for Roquan Smith, and they might not have made a play for Isaiah Simmons, and they may not have done things that are, big names that jump out on a headline, but they've made a ton of changes.
Yeah.
So, again, going back to my statement before about McDaniels, no one is more invested into the success of this defense than Patrick Graham.
Yeah.
More than any of us. More than you and I, more than anybody listening to us, anybody that's a Raider fan. Patrick Graham wants this defense to be good more than anybody else. He's not going to stake his legacy, and Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are not going to stake their legacies on this defense if they don't have faith that it can get better. How many times do we see every single year a team jump up with players that national media has no idea who they are?
Yeah.
And they go, whoa, where's this guy? Where'd this guy come from? Or you see him in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, and he's like standout players that come out of nowhere. How many times have we seen that? It happens every single year. You know what I mean? So, when Kevin Byard was drafted from the freaking Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, ain't nobody was clamoring for that as Titans fans.
Exactly.
And, now, by the way, he's one of the best safeties in the league and just signed a freaking extension with them. Like, these players come out of nowhere from smaller programs, from maybe different tiers of bigger programs. So I think we are underestimating the impact and the ability of this defense this year. Are we going to be a freaking top 10 defense? Hell no. But if we're a top 15 or top 20, that's miles above where we've been in years.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, all we really need, because we're going to have a dynamic offense. We're going to have a ton of playmakers. It's what I said last year. If we had given Derek in the offense, a defense that was in the top 15, oh, shit, we'd have won 11 games.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't absolve Derek for his responsibility in the losses.
Exactly.
Because I always say this, too. Two things are true. You can have a quarterback that underperforms and a defense that underperforms.
I was at that Arizona Cardinals game, too. So I saw with my eyes exactly what the fuck it was. So, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, you answer your question. Do I think the defense is going to be I think the defense is going to be leaps and bounds better. I don't know how much better, but to go to your other point about Max Crosby, he's as franchise of a player as you can get. If he ever wears a uniform other than silver and black, I'll feel let down as a
Yeah,
fan. Like,
yeah.
he literally is the definition of the Raiders. He's the mouthpiece for the Raiders. I think him and Devontae. I think those are the
Yes,
two guys.
yes.
Like, those are your two leaders of this football team. And considering that Max was drafted by the Raiders and will be a Raider for hopefully again his career, I think that gives him a level of not credibility, because Devontae has that too. But I mean, but just like
It's
the Raiders,
different, homegrown. Yeah.
that's all he's ever known is the Raiders. You know what I mean? And so, I again, I think he's got a shot to be Defensive Player of the Year. Last year, I'm gonna shut up. I know I'm rambling like crazy.
No, hey man, I love it.
I love to talk about the Raiders, man, and I'm enjoying our conversation.
Yeah, I love
it. So people last year said a lot about, like, well, Chandler Jones underperformed, and we would have liked to have seen him better on the stats.
Yeah, yes and no. I say yes and no, but yeah.
Yes and no, because Max will tell you, no, that guy was sucking up a bunch of blocks.
He
because
was.
Our interior linemen were challenged. Chandler was getting the double teams. That's what was freeing up Max to get into the backfield. Okay. Well, now Tyree Wilson and these improvements on the interior of the defensive line, now it's going to be a lot more even.
Yes.
Right? Now we're going to see a lot more one-on-ones all the way around. God forbid we start blitzing 41, Mickey Spillane.
Exactly.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, or freaking Nate Hobbs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I think that there's going to be a big improvement on defense. I think we're going to see a lot more sacks, like strip sacks. We need someone. I miss Khalil Mack because I miss his ability to close a football game.
Yeah.
I miss somebody that can cause a sack fumble, pick off a pass off Cam Newton and run it into the end zone and end the game. We need somebody that can close the game. I think we're verging on that ability. And all right, I'm going to shut up now. But man, I'm fired up, dude. If you can't tell.
I love it, bro. And this is the thing, and this is what I've been telling a lot of my followers and people, subscribers. I do believe that the defense is going to take a jump. I believe we're going to get somewhere between the 24-20 range, and to have that, we've been 32nd, damn near 31st for I don't know how many years. That's one. And two, I've said this for, I think, ever since I started making YouTube. This team, and you're really going to see it on the defensive side of the ball, but this team and McDaniels and Ziegler's whole regime is really, really based upon the growth and development of the homegrown talent. You feel what I'm saying? And that's why I feel like we're not seeing a lot of free agents so far. Now our cap increases next year, and we get to maybe sign a couple more people. But I do believe that right now what they're trying to do is bring in their guys that they draft, like you said, only know the Raiders and only know what's going on within this building, develop these guys, and these are the guys that's going to be the real, nails in the coffin when you talk about culture in the Raiders, like Tyree, Byron Young, Trey Tucker, dudes of this net, maybe Aiden O'Connell. Like, these are guys that you're going to talk about, like, yeah, these are cornerstones. And you go back to previous draft, Dylan Parham, who's a starter now, right? Like dudes like this. And although they're mixing in some of Gruden's guys, which I feel like Trayvon Merritt, the spotlight's on him. He needs to play better, this year than what he has. Divine Diablo, like you said, needs to take a leap. But at the end of the day, you can see for these past 2 years, they're bringing in guys they feel like fit the scheme, and at the same time, they can develop into superstar or at least starter caliber players. The Raiders haven't gotten any starter caliber players on defensively alone. Any starters from any drafts that I can really think of that are really impact dudes. Besides Max Crosby, Nate Hobbs, you look at them, but those are guys that you're like, we need more of that. We don't have enough of that, and we have a lot of guys that if they were to go to another team are probably not starting for that other team. You know what I mean? And that's something that the Raiders need, and I think they're trying or in the midst of changing right now, especially on defense. Because right now, on offense, we have a little bit more veteran talent. When you look at our offensive roster right now, there's a little bit more veteran talent that you can look at and point out. When you look at the defense, there's a lot of young guys in certain positions that they're going to be counting on once the season starts. And it's all about how can PG, some funny enough, but how can he go ahead and, really develop these guys? And that's the last point I really wanted to make, man. How are these guys doing to develop?
That's a great point. The drafts have I'm not telling anybody anything new. they've struggled, and for every Josh Jacobs and Hunter Renfrow, there's an Alex Leatherwood and a Cleveland Farrell. You know what I mean? There hasn't been success in the draft, and there's just been spotty success at best. And so I'm with you. And it's interesting the way that the difference in the regime between Mayock and Gruden, which is mainly Gruden, and now Ziegler and McDaniels. And I saw that, and I'll end it with this, man. It cracked me up the other day. I saw somebody, I think it was my buddy Pepe in Vegas out there on Twitter, and he said, "Now look, you guys can talk all the smack you want about Ziegler and McDaniels, but if this were John Gruden, he'd have signed Josh Jacobs to a 5-year, $100 million contract."
Yeah, man. And the cap hit to be somewhere around 20 million, and we stuck with that for 4 years after this. So now it's like, yeah, most definitely. I really enjoyed today's conversation, man. I definitely want to keep in touch. I want to continue to do this once the season, progresses. Definitely talk more with you. If you want to get your friend involved too. I'm growing my channel, so I definitely want to do more with you in the future, man. I love talking to you, but go ahead and do your outro to the people, man. Whatever you need to talk about before we end it off.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so our show supports the One Nation Foundation. That's our Raiders-related charity. We give all the money away to different Raiders-related charities like the Bolitnikoff Foundation, which it brings in young women that are at risk of domestic violence and substance abuse, and gives them not only a safe place to stay, but offers them rehabilitative and counseling services. So we support the Bolitnikoffs every year. We will be issuing them a check. Our goal this year is to give them $15,000, and we're going to issue that check in November at their annual dinner. But then also we support another foundation called Raider Dad, which takes underprivileged kids to Raider games with not only just the kids, but with their parental figures. And it creates those bonds and those experiences with those adults in their life through the Raiders. And so we're going to be out there for the preseason game against the Niners in August. So here in just a few weeks, we're going to be out there for that. And so, and that's everything that our show does and earns goes to our foundation. So if you can support us, youtube.com/RaidersFanRadio, or look for the audio podcast at Raiders Fan Radio. And even if you can't support it monetarily, we always just say, just like for your channel, hit a like, hit a subscribe, smash the bell, as the kids say, right? Tell your Raider friends about us, all that good stuff, man. Just again, a rising tide raises all ships. And I want to tell you this before I go. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate this. I appreciated our conversation. It's always fun to get to meet new Raider fans, and it's even more fun to get to meet new Raider fans that have their own gig going on, that have their own show. And so, I started our show it was around Madden football, and we had an audience of 30. And we used to joke that we had tens and tens of listeners. And now we have thousands and thousands of listeners. And that's not me trying to do it, but I'm just saying that, like, through dedication and investment into your craft and into doing a podcast, you could build it. You can find an audience and build it into something spectacular. And I think you will. And just keep at it. And if anything me or Jeff or Michelle or anybody can do to assist and help you out, we always want to. Again, rising tide raises all ships, man. We want to help you out and lift you up. And so keep at it, man. Keep bringing the shows. People dig it.
I really appreciate that, man. I really do, man. Once again, y'all are watching another episode of the Raider Rundown with my boy Murf here. You're going to see him a lot. And hopefully I can get on his show, sometime later in the future. But make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Like he said, hit the notification bell so you can get updated when we drop, man. And it was nice seeing y'all, man. Peace out. Boom.